Good morning.
Okay, folks, the time is 10 o'clock. I will call the June 20th, 2024 Planning Board meeting to order. We have the following board members with us. Vice Chair Bailey. Good morning, Ms. Bailey.
Good morning.
And we have Commissioner Giraldo with us as well.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Moving forward to the business, I'm Chair Shapiro. I'm moving forward to the business at hand. Please note that the deadline for all participant pre-registration for all submission of materials and exhibits was 12 noon on the Tuesday before this planning board meeting. Registered speakers may join the meeting with the link provided by the planning board office or listen by phone by utilizing the call-in number, which is provided in the email. And of course, anyone may tune in to watch us via live stream. If you wish to speak or become a person of record, you may use our online web form, which you'll see referenced before you. In addition to the commissioners, we are joined by our associate counsel, Ms. Tallarico. Good morning, Ms. Tallarico. We have Jessica Jones, our planning board administrator. We have Joe Parsons, our senior technical hearing writer, and Mr. Hunt, the acting deputy director. And staff members Kenneth Flanagan and Ryan Crowder helping us with technology behind the scenes. And before we begin today's cases, I will turn to Mr. Hunt for a special announcement and an additional introduction.
Good morning, members of the board. For the record, I'm James Hunt with the Development Review Division, the Planning Department. I wanted to, of course, briefly kind of give everyone some great news that's recently taken place. I am excited to announce that Ms. Sherry Connor will be the acting division chief over the Development Review Division. We're really excited to have Sherry on board. As you know, Sherry is the epitome of a rising star, as you all may know. Sherry came into the Planning Commission back in 2008 as a principal planning technician and has worked her way up all the way to now the acting division chief over Development Review. She was, like I said, principal planning technician, then became a planner, then became planner coordinator, then planning supervisor, and now this acting division chief role. I'm really excited, obviously, to have her on board. She has really been a true expert in the department when it comes to subdivision matters as well as zoning matters, because if many of you recall, Sherry was actually supervising the zoning section as well as subdivision at the same time. So that was a big effort and she worked it out greatly. So, and this whole time, even when with the subdivision regulations and the zoning ordinance, she has really played a big part in how those were established and how they're being implemented today. So we're really excited to have her on board. She has an excellent relationship with the development community as well as with the citizens. And of course, we hope for nothing but the best for her moving forward. So that said, congratulations, Sherry, and welcome to this great new role.
Sherry, we couldn't be happier. It's not just the technical expertise, it's your leadership and your ability to work well with all stakeholders. It truly, truly is an excellent choice, and we're happy to have you.
Thank you so much.
It's time for your 15-minute speech, Sherry.
Well, I'm just continuing, look forward to continue to work with everyone just in a slightly different capacity and, improve, keep improving. That's our goal, always keep improving. So
that's great. That's great. Yeah. Welcome to the new role.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Okay. The order of cases will be as listed with one change. Item 3C will be removed from the agenda. We won't be taking that up. But let's begin with item 2. I'd look for a motion to approve the draft minutes of June 13, 2024.
Motion to approve draft minutes.
Second.
Got a motion by Vice Chair Bailey, a second by Commissioner Giraldo. If there's no discussion, I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye, Mr. Chair.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. There are no legislative updates. And again, item 3C has been removed from the agenda. We're now at the consent agenda. Is there anyone who wishes to oppose staff's recommendations on item 4A and B on the consent agenda, or any board member wishes to discuss any of these items? If not, I would look for a motion.
Motion to approve item on the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
We've got a motion by Vice Chair Bailey, a second by Commissioner Giraldo. If there's no discussion, I'll call the roll. Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Next, we have item 5 on our agenda, preliminary plan of subdivision. These are regular agenda items. First one, item 5, preliminary plan of subdivision 4-23037, Ridgely Ministries. Heather Dolpowski will be representing the applicant, and we have Ms. Vatendust who will be giving a staff presentation. This is an evidentiary hearing, so if there are folks who will be speaking outside that, the folks I mentioned, then I will be swearing them in at that time. And let's turn to Ms. Vatendust for the staff presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, I'm Mahsa Vatendust with the subdivision section. Item number 5 on the agenda is a preliminary plan of subdivision 4-23037 titled Ridgely Ministries. This subdivision proposes one parcel for 44,500 square feet of institutional development. This application is supported by an approved certificate of adequacy ADQ-2023-063. No citizen has signed up to speak on this case, and staff has not received any exhibits prior to the Tuesday noon deadline. The applicant has indicated that they agree with the staff recommended conditions of approval. Based on the findings presented in the technical staff report, staff recommend that the planning board approve this preliminary plan of subdivision 4-23037 and type 1-3 conservation plan TCP 1-010-2024, as well as the variance to section 25-122B1G, subject to the findings and conditions in the staff report. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vatendust. Commissioners, since there's no questions for staff on this item, I'll turn to the applicant. We have Ms. Dolpowski, and introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Thanks for checking.
Great. Okay, thank you. Good morning, Chair Shapiro and members of the board. My name is Heather Delapolsky. I'm with Wire Gill LLP, and I'm the land use and zoning attorney for the applicant. We also have with us Pastor Patrick Russell. He is with the applicant, Ridgely Ministries. We also have supporting us today, Phil Rhodes, Jack Good, and Aaron Batlas with AMT Engineering. They are our civil engineer, traffic consultant, and environmental consultant. We're very happy to be here. We'd like to thank MNC PPC staff and all of the reviewing agencies for their work in reviewing this application. The application is for expansion of an existing church. Ridgely Ministries has been in this location for quite some time, and they have been able to grow their members, and they are planning for the future. So we propose this preliminary plan of subdivision to allow for expansion, which we do anticipate will occur in phases as the church is able to fundraise to build this out. The pastor will speak just in a few minutes, or in a minute really, to just a little bit more on why we're seeking this application, but I expect he's probably our only speaker unless you have questions for any of our technical consultants. Staff already mentioned that we are in full agreement with the staff report and in agreement with all of the proposed conditions of approval. So we're pleased to be able to say that. And I'm going to turn to the pastor just to say a few words. And I understand you'll have to swear him in for that. And then we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. And Pastor, good to see you. And if you could raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, consider yourself under oath and introduce yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Yes, for the record, my name is Patrick L. Russell, Pastor Patrick Russell. I'm the lead pastor at Ridgely Ministries, which is on 9235 DRC Road. We've been at that location for since 1989, and We have been growing. We've did some development there with adding additional buildings, but as the community has been growing and advancing, we want to keep pace with our community and surrounding communities because there's such a great need with the service that we are providing them. And we want to do it with quality facilities and upgrade our facilities and expand on our property. And it's our vision just to be a light and be a help and an assistance to our surrounding community. So I appreciate you hearing our plan and our vision for our property. And as I said, with everything that we're offering, this would greatly help us to continue to keep pace with our communities and provide the services that we're providing.
Thank you, Pastor Russell. I appreciate you taking the time and appreciate all the work you do in the community. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant, for the pastor? Seeing none, we have no one who's signed up to speak on this item. Unless there's anything else from the applicant, which I don't think there is,
No,
then I will close. Okay, I'll close this public hearing. It is to us for deliberation, and if there is nothing further to add, commissioners, I'd look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve as preliminary plan 4-23037, Tree Conservation Plan 1-010-24, as well as a variance to section 25-122B1G, subject to the findings and the conditions set forth in the staff report.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Pastor, thank you very much. Mr. Polsky and Ms. Dutton-Deuce, thank you all very much.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You as well.
Did I vote? Did I say aye as well? And the ayes have it 3-0? I can't even remember now. Yes, I think I did. Laura, did I? Yeah, okay.
I don't remember either, but we'll count this
I
as
don't
the aye.
either.
Okay.
We'll count that as an aye.
Right. I don't think I did, but anyhow, yes, and yes. Item 6 on our agenda. This is a detailed site plan DSP 18020-01 Capital Electric. We have Mr. Horn, who's representing the applicant. And we have Mr. Mitchum, who will give you the staff presentation, I believe. Yes. And this also is an evidentiary hearing, so there may be folks who will be testifying, and I will swear them in at the appropriate time when I have a better sense of who will be speaking. Mr. Mitchum, we'll turn to you first for the staff presentation. Good to see you, and take it away.
All right, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Joshua Mitchum with the Urban Design Section. The item before you is detailed site plan DSP-18020-01 for Capital Electric, which seeks to construct a 161,485 square foot addition to the existing 362,880 square foot building used for light industrial warehousing previously approved by the planning board. I'm going to be giving the full presentation for this. Next slide, please. So the site is shown. The site shown in red is located in Planning Area 78 and Council District 06. Next slide. The subject property shown in red is located on the south side of Westphalia Road, approximately 353 feet west of Presidential Parkway. Next slide. So the subject property outlined in red is currently zoned RMF 20 in the current zoning ordinance and MXT/MIO, mixed use transportation oriented, and military installation overlay under the prior zoning ordinance. The application has been reviewed in accordance with the prior zoning ordinance, under which, again, the property is zoned MXT. The property is bounded to the north by Westphalia Road with multifamily dwelling units in the RMF 20 zone. To the south by Deerstream Drive, Presidential Parkway, MC-634, and vacant woodlands in the RMF 20 zone. To the east by Parkside at Westphalia, a single-family residential community in the LCD zone. And to the west by various industrial uses in the IE industrial employment zone. Next slide, please. So the subject property, again shown in red, is within the MIO overlay zone under the prior zoning ordinance. Since the subject site is located within the prior MIO zone, specifically within height surface D. Next slide, please. So this map with the site shown in purple demonstrates the location's environmental features and shows the slope of the site, and it is evenly away. Next slide, please. The site is subject to the 2009 approved countywide master plan of transportation and the 2007 approved Westphalia sectional map amendment. The subject property has frontage along Westphalia Road. Westphalia Road is identified as a collector roadway with an 80-foot right-of-way, and Deerstream Road is identified as a designated public right-of-way of 100 feet. This application does not propose to modify any right-of-way dedication. Next slide, please. So here is the general detailed site plan view of the subject application, and the subject site is currently improved with an industrial warehouse building, paved surface parking in the northern portion of the site, and a paved truck bay in the southern portion of the site. Furthermore, it's been previously graded and remains relatively flat with no steep slopes. And again, the DSP proposes to construct a 161,000 square foot addition to the industrial warehousing to the existing site. Vehicular access to the property will be provided via a single driveway off of Westphalia Road, and both trucks and passenger traffic will enter the site via this road. Trucks will continue south via an existing service road that runs along the west side of the property to the rear loading or to the loading area at the rear of the property. For access to the new loading area at the front of the building, the applicant proposes a new service road that runs along the east side of the proposed addition. The loading areas and the service drive aisles are separated from pedestrian and other vehicular circulation on the property, which will be directed to the parking areas and entrances on the north side of the building. Next slide, please. So this following slide demonstrates the tree conservation plan, which is recommended for approval, subject to condition 2 on page 27 of the published technical staff report. No additional specimen trees are proposed for removal with the subject application. Next slide, please. Moving on to the warehouse addition itself, the proposed addition will be comprised of concrete tilt panels with accent colors. Next slide, please. Again, so the concrete panels will introduce dark and yellow-brown accent colors to distinguish the addition from the eastern building. The southern facade will also feature 25 by 5 feet clerestory warehouse windows, and clerestory refers to a high section of wall that contains windows above eye level, which is intended to admit light, fresh air, or a combination of both elements. Next slide, please. So the next two slides, including this one, demonstrates that the property abuts an existing townhome community to its east. Next slide, please. So employee entrances are provided at points along each elevation of the proposed addition, and there will be no public entrances provided. Because of this, the DSP has not proposed any sidewalks that will connect the employee entrance to the main or public entrance. The existing sidewalks will remain, which will direct pedestrian traffic to the main entrance of the existing building. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, the landscape plan has demonstrated conformance with the 2010 Prince George's County Landscape Manual. The required schedules have been provided and demonstrating conformance to those requirements. All existing landscape buffers approved with detailed site plan DSP 18020, the parent application, have been maintained and certified with a submitted certification of landscape maintenance. Additional plantings are provided within the new parking lot and the portion of the section 4.7 buffer where existing trees were removed along the east property line closest to the Parkside community. The proposed supplemental landscape plantings will include Leland cypress evergreens and other native species to provide a denser buffer between the existing building, the proposed addition, and the adjacent townhome community. Next slide, please. So the applicant has submitted a noise study with the application. The noise study recommended mitigation measures. The proposed mitigation measures of 3 sound barriers and a 10-foot tall landscaping berm should maintain noise levels between 50 and 60 decibels during the daytime and nighttime hours, respectively, adjacent to the townhome community. Furthermore, the applicant has proposed restricted hours of operation to the new loading dock between the hours of 10 p.m. And 7 a.m. And moving on, next slide, please. I would like to take some time, just as a matter of housekeeping, to discuss the applicant's exhibits and the community exhibits that were received. So Chairman Shapiro, would you like me to go through it? It's pretty detailed, just to walk through all of the different things the staff has received at this time.
What's going to be helpful for you all? I'm just trying to think of, do we respond to concerns that we have, or will it be helpful to get all this out first? Mr. Mitchum or Ms. Connor, what do you all think?
I'm prepared to go through the list here just before I wrap up with the recommendation. I feel like it would be helpful to maybe, the application has gone through several changes as a result of the exhibits received. So if you would like, I can definitely go through that.
Why don't you go ahead and do it, Mr. Mitchum? I appreciate your help on this, and yes, definitely go through it.
Sure, absolutely. So as a matter of housekeeping, again, the applicant has provided several exhibits that were submitted prior to the noon deadline on June 18th, 2024. Applicant Exhibit 1 proposes revised conditions to the published technical staff report. Staff has reviewed the proposal and is in agreement with the proposed changes to the conditions. Applicant Exhibit 2 provides revised architectural and landscape elevations that show additional proposed plantings and the removal of the formerly proposed 6-foot tall chain link fence between the Capital Electric property and the neighboring Parkside Westphalia community. Finally, Applicant Exhibit 3 provides a 3D rendering of the proposed noise barriers and proposed building addition. Moving on, staff has received 12 emails and an exhibit titled OE-1 and one letter in an exhibit titled RE1 regarding the application that were both submitted prior to the noon deadline on June 18th. RE1 contains a letter from the former chairman of the Westphalia Sector Development Review Advisory Council and who serves as the current president of the Westphalia Sector Community Association in support of the application. OE-1 provides a single email from a resident of the Parkside community supporting the installation of the formerly proposed 6-foot black chain link security fence on the property. The email purported that the proposed chain link fence would adequately address residents' concerns about the safety of those using the existing trail. Furthermore, OE-1 also provides 11 emails from residents of the adjacent residential community opposing the installation of the 6-foot black chain link security fence. The consensus among these emails was that the chain link fence would diminish the green space that Parkside homeowners desired when purchasing their homes, in addition to finding the fence's design aesthetically unappealing. The emails of opposition to the fence suggested 2 alternatives. The first alternative being the continuation of the existing 4-foot tall safety fence located on the existing retaining wall, or number 2, the removal of the proposed chain link fence altogether. The applicant has been made aware of the community feedback regarding the proposed chain link fence and has elected to remove it from the DSP entirely. So moving forward, based on the evaluation and analysis, the urban design staff recommend that the planning board adopt the findings of this report as modified by the technical corrections of the applicant's exhibits and approve detailed site plan number DSP 18020-01. Type 2 Tree Conservation Plan TCP 2-002-2015-02, and the amendment to Conceptual Site Plan CSP 11003, all subject to the conditions of approval stated within the technical staff report. And this concludes staff's presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchum. Appreciate that, and appreciate the additional detail too. Commissioners, any questions for staff before we turn to the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to be clear. So with regards to applicant's exhibit number 1, we have revised findings as well as revised conditions. Am I right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have some questions, and Ms. Tallarico, maybe you can chime in too, about the conditions that we see. Are these some of these things I'm not sure we can impose, though the applicant may proffer them, and that distinction is important. Ms. Tallarico, do you want to weigh in on that?
I believe that's a little slightly premature. The conditions into the technical staff report may be imposed as written.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, great. Thank you for that. That's helpful.
Can you repeat that, please?
What I'm saying is not relevant. It's the short of it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So the conditions that are in the technical staff report are perfectly appropriate, and that is staff's recommendation.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So if there's no other questions for staff on this, Mr. Mitchum, then let us turn to the applicant, Mr. Horn. You are the representative for the applicant. You may want to introduce the team. If anyone else besides you is speaking, I'll swear them in at the appropriate time, but take it away.
Thank you so very much. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. For the record, Arthur Horn with the law firm of Shipley on Horn here in Largo, Maryland. With me today, I'm representing Capital Westphalia Real Estate LLC, also known as Capital Electric. Represented here this morning by Mr. Tim McGowan, who's the Director of Business Development, and Mr. Anthony Fleming, who's the Vice President of Logistics. Our civil engineers in this case is Atwell, represented this morning by Mr. Paul Woodburn and Mr. Mike Novi. Our architect is MGMA Designs, represented by Ms. Abby Rolando. Our transportation engineer, although there's no issue with transportation, is Mr. Lenhart Traffic Consultant, Mr. Michael Lenhart. And our acoustical engineer from Phoenix Consulting is here, Ms. Erica Elbasal. Mr. Chairman, I'm very pleased to be able to present this DSP and, of course, the accompanying amendment to the CSP for Capital Electric. I guess I'll start out by saying that the applicant agrees with the finding of facts and conclusions of law as outlined in the staff report and as amended slightly by applicant's exhibit number 1, which Mr. Geraldo pointed out some corrections to some of the findings. It's really numerical corrections and proposed conditions, which is applicant exhibit number 1. Applicant's exhibit number 2, as Mr. Mitchum indicated, was put in just to show the community, as requested, that the proposed fence that was initially proposed at their request to the adjacent properties has been removed. And then we submitted applicant's exhibit 3 simply for illustrative purposes, which is an architectural rendering, just illustrating the noise barrier wall that's going to be installed. So, Mr. Chairman, you and perhaps the other planning board members are quite familiar with Capital Electric at this site, because since 2018, there's been an approved conceptual site plan, preliminary plan, detailed site plan for the approval of this beautiful building at 362,000 square feet, which opened its doors here in 2024. Most recently, in September of 2023, this board heard and approved the certificate of adequacy for the site and for the preliminary plan, which requested the 162,000 square foot addition. As you may recall, Capital Electric is a national company headquartered here in Prince George's County, and the company provides electrical products and lighting and service to contractors, builders, and end users throughout Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, everywhere. Though Capital Electric is national in nature, they're very local when it comes to services it provides its businesses to both Prince George's County, and they're very community oriented, being very active within the Westphalia community, contribute to the social networking and improvement within the area. This site, as you know, as outlined in the staff report, has a long history. It's currently within the military installation overlay because it is a parcel that is directly in the flight path of all of Joint Base Andrews activities. As Capital Electric is a national company, they were being sought by all of the other regional areas to relocate their headquarters here, both in the DC region, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and all the way on the East Coast. Both the state of Maryland and Prince George's County governments moved in quickly to incentivize this very important business through legislation and other financial incentives to try to have them maintain its location here within Prince George's County. And the county proposed this site for Capital Electric as this site was adjacent to where Capital Electric had been located since 2008. And there was and you probably remember, there was an existing heavy industrial building located on that site owned by Pepco. That Pepco building was designed to repair turbine engines used for power plants. And the council initiated legislation that would ensure that Capital Electric could locate this site. And as Capital Electric has always done, if I keep saying Capitol Heights, I mean Capital Electric has always done, they worked hand in hand with the Westphalia sector community and moving forward with this location and with the incentives offered by the county and the state turned out to be sufficient for Capital Electric to stay here in Prince George's County and Westphalia, which we were all grateful. After the groundbreaking and ribbon cuttings and all had occurred, as the industry involved, Capital Electric has the opportunity to add and improve its operation through the installation of indoor mechanical machinery that improves the efficiency of the business. This addition, which we're here for today, will add approximately 40 quality jobs to the already over 240 employees that are on the site. By participating in an ever-evolving way of servicing their clients, Capital Electric provides technologically superior services, which will prove beneficial to the customer. As indicated in review of the staff report, this application for the DSP and amendment to the CSP requires no waivers, no variances, no exceptions of any kind. The applicant meets all the applicable requirements of the zoning ordinance for approval of this detailed site plan, including but not limited to all required design guidelines, including landscaping and screening, lighting, architecture, access, and circulation. In addition to meeting with the representatives of the Westphalia sector community, Capital Electric has had the opportunity to meet and address its next door neighbors, some of whom may have signed up here today to speak. There's been many meetings with the community, both in person and virtually, as the community has been extremely responsive to any offer of communications. Some of the neighbors have submitted letters which Capital Electric and its team has just been able to review as they became public at noon on Tuesday. Mr. Mitchell mentioned the emails here this morning. However, in reading the same, Capital Electric is well aware of their concerns and have stated in the several meetings that have occurred with them and as stated in this application, and they're all here today so we can state it again this morning if necessary, that the neighbors' concerns are Capital Electric's concerns. The neighbors herein are, as well as the Westphalia Sector Association, have Mr. McGowan's direct contact information, and they all have his and his company's continuous open door policy as a neighbor, just as they've done throughout their location here in the Westphalia area. So if I could, Mr. Chairman, I just, based on those emails, want to briefly speak on what they were addressing as we read it. The majority of them, as you talked about the security fence, and there's a master plan trail that parallels the residence of the Capital Electric properties. The Capital Electric site is fenced, but the neighbors are not. So the neighbors stated in these meetings that they would like that people from who are utilizing this master plan trail will walk into their backyards. So Capital Electric agreed to place a security fence along the property line to provide them with the security that was requested. However, the neighbors have since decided that they did not want that fence along the property line, but as stated by Mr. Mitchell, would accept a fence along the trail. The problem with having a fence along the trail is that it would create a tunnel effect where you would have these fences on both sides of the trail, which would perhaps be a security issue in and of itself. And it would not allow Capital Electric to access their trees without trespassing on the neighbor's property. So locating the fence elsewhere in any place other than the property line would be problematic. So the community has decided that they do not want the fence, and so as we submitted applicant's exhibit number 2, it was for the purpose of illustrating that, as requested, that we would remove the fence. There was an email that discussed spillover lighting on the site. When the community met with the Capital Electric, they indicated that lights from the existing building were leaving the site and shining on their property. And Capital Electric immediately changed the optics in the fixtures and replaced the building lights with full cutoff lighting. The lights on the existing building as well as the proposed building will be cut off and directed only onto the subject site and will not escape the property as demonstrated in the submitted photometric plan. There's a issue about the trees and the tree buffer that was raised in one of the emails, and during the time that Capital Electric was beginning to demolish the building that was on the site, trees were removed, and they were removed at the request of the county. And the county and Park and Planning and the applicant worked through the reestablishment of some of the trees, the replacement of the trees. And these trees were a buffer between the property, but they needed to be removed because they had died and there were other complaints and concerns that the trees could fall over and be problematic. So Capital Electric has replaced a significant portion of these trees already and will replace the trees even more. So as stated in the staff report and as demonstrated on our site plans that we provided, Capital Electric is not only meet the requirement, they will provide 50% more trees than required by law. And this was as a result of meeting with the community, and some of the individuals mentioned that they would like to have an additional trees, and Capital Electric has done so. And finally, there was an issue that they was concerned about the noise, so Capital Electric undertook a noise study for this site to prove that the use will not in any way violate the noise ordinance. The reason that the community was rightfully concerned is that the demolition of the old Pepco building was occurring, as you can recall, that Pepco building was a solidly built building. The demolition was occurring during COVID, and many of the residents were working from home. And as such, they were concerned that this demolition was going on in the early mornings and into the evening. And the county was called to come out there, and the county measured and realized that though the Capital Electric was not violating any of the noise ordinance with reference to the demolition, but they were operating too early in the morning. And so they were cited for that, and they ceased operations to start at the start time that was required. So the concern about the noise was generated from the original demolition of the Pepco building. And this problem that obviously won't exist this time around because there's no building to demo. And in this particular case, this is a slab on grade design and build, so it won't be an issue. So my statements, Mr. Chairman, are not attempting to speak for the neighbors because they, obviously they can testify on their own with the additional information they have. However, just as Capital Electric has always done, and in particular in the Westphalia community, for where their business has resided since the early 1980s. They've worked with the community and operated as good neighbors and will continue to do so. So there is a letter, as was mentioned from Mr. Mitchum, that president of the Westphalia Sector Community Association, attesting to the fact that Capital Electric has always been a good neighbor, and they work with the community and will continue to do so. And they most recently have come to know their adjacent neighbors who are here, and will continue to work with them as well. So if that, Mr. Chairman, if I could hold on our witness for rebuttal in case there is any questions that you want to have answered as a result of perhaps some of the neighbors speaking, or if the board has any question. Otherwise, as stated earlier with a few minor edits in Applicant's Exhibit 1, which, as you heard, the staff concurs with, we fully support the staff's recommendation and approval of the DSP and amendment of the CSP. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Appreciate the additional detail as well. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant at this time? No questions. We will turn to the speakers list. I just want to set the stage a little bit for this. I've got 7 people signed up to speak. Would anyone who has signed up to speak in opposition? I believe we have Asiria Randolph. Is there anyone else? And Asiria Randolph here.
I'm here.
Okay, great, wonderful. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Renee Yarborough. No. Andrea Wilson. Lakia Jones.
I'm here.
Okay. Arma White.
I'm here. And Chairman, I'll say, I know a few people were having challenges getting into the meeting, so that may be why some couldn't join. But just to make you aware.
Okay, thank you, Ms. White. I appreciate that. And Kira Terry. And Orlando Oxenad.
I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shapiro. This is Larry Hentz. I was on another call. I didn't know if you called my name or not.
Oh, I didn't. I'm sorry, Mr. Hentz. You were up above. I skipped right over you, sir. And we have Larry Hentz with the Economic Development Corporation. If I am correct in understanding, the only person on this list who's speaking in opposition is Ms. Randolph. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. All right. So for those who are speaking in support, I'd like to go through those folks first, and then we'll hear from the party in opposition. But for all the folks who I described, including you, Mr. Hentz, I need to swear you all in. So if you could raise your right hand, you don't have to come on camera, but you can. I will trust that your right hand is being raised if you're not on camera. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Yes.
Okay,
And
thank you
also,
all.
Chairman, just not to interrupt, but I know you mentioned like we were in favor or against it. Mine is neither one. It's just more of a statements and some concerns that I had to mention.
Okay, that's helpful. I appreciate that.
And I think that is for others too, maybe. I mean, I won't speak for.
No, that's. Thank you for the clarification. It is helpful. So let's go through the list as I have on my agenda. We'll start with Mr. Hentz. I'm going to ask each of you to keep your remarks to no more than 3 minutes. We'll put a clock up there just to help manage the time. And we'll start with you, Mr. Hentz. If you could introduce yourself for the record. It is good to see you, and take it away. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Larry E. Hentz. I am the Executive Director for Business Development for the Prince George's County Economic Development Corporation, or as we refer to it, the EDC. I'm here speaking in support of this addition to Capital Electric. First and foremost, if you've already have heard in some cases, we as an organization and as a county, worked very hard to keep this national company in our county. And as a result of that decision not too long ago, we are now in this position where we have this strong company here that has currently over 240 employees, having an addition and including automation to that addition. And we'll be adding an additional 40 employees. Not to mention also, they took control of a site that had basically, for all intents and purposes, an abandoned building that was extremely difficult to find a repurpose for. So this 161,000 square feet will create 40 new jobs. It creates a capital expenditure of over $30 million. And what that means is tax dollars coming into the county for our vital services that we need and have to have. Up to date, as a matter of fact, since 2008, they've created an excess of $6 million to our tax base. They've been a very good corporate citizen, not only in providing taxes, but also opening themselves up to be supportive of the community and surrounding areas. They support National Night Out, for example, and they offer their space is available for meeting space. I want to suggest to us, as I close, that this project will promote economic development and growth in Prince George's County. And this project will create new jobs for our residents. It'll also continue to broaden our commercial tax base and promote local, minority, and small businesses within the county. I thank you for your time. And unless there are any questions, I'm going to stop talking now.
Thank you, Mr. Hance. And there may be questions as we go through all the speakers lists. I also want to thank you for all of your leadership in helping grow the county's economy. So I want to recognize you for that good work over many years. So next on our speakers list, I'm just going to go through again just to make sure if anyone has joined us late. We have Renee Yarborough, Andrea Wilson, Lakia Jones?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Jones. If you could introduce yourself for the record, and again, we'll put 3 minutes up on the clock, and you are sworn in, so you are under oath. Ms. Tellerico, you want to say something?
I was just checking that we swore everyone in. We did?
I did, but thank you for reminding me. I'll just confirm. Ms. Jones, you were sworn in, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. All right, introduce yourself for the record. We have 3 minutes up on the clock to help manage the time, and take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Lakia Jones. I'm one of the residents that live on General Breeze Drive here in Westphalia. I am just here to say I think Capital Electric has been a great neighbor in the sense of hearing us out and our concerns that we have with the building behind us. I'm one of the neighbors that is directly affected with the building. And just wanted to say we are in support of the changes that they have made in order to accommodate our concerns. We just want to ensure that the barriers that are being put in are going to be happening in the first phase and not in phase 3 of the development of the property extension. We are aware that this is happening. It's supposed to be good for the community. It's supposed to be good for PG County. All those things. We understand that can't be stopped at this point. We just want to ensure that we are being heard about wanting these things to be happening earlier on in the development rather than later on once everything is already developed and construction has happened. And now here comes the trees. Here comes, the barrier wall, or I'm sorry, maybe not the wall, but the berm or whatever they're going to be putting up. We just want to ensure that that is happening early on and not later in the stage. And that's all I had today.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Thank you for taking the time to join us on this and to speak and make your voice heard. And I'm sure that Mr. Horn or Mr. McGowan will be addressing your questions, concerns under rebuttal. I don't see Mr. Horn nodding, but I assume he's nodding in his heart. Yes, there we go.
I'm nodding, yes.
So I'm sure, again, you'll hear from them to address that. Next, we have Ms. Arma White. Ms. White?
Hi, Chairman. Are you able to give me 4 minutes?
Say again?
Are you able to give me like an extra minute?
Yes, I'd be happy to.
All right, perfect. I'll turn my camera on if everybody can hear me. Okay.
Yes.
So good morning to the board and to the chairman. My name is Arma White, and as y'all may be aware, the homeowners of Parkside Westphalia, including myself, we've been communicating with multiple offices within Prince George's County Park and Planning and Capital Electric since the initial Capital Electric Distribution Center was constructed, or more recently when we learned of the proposed extension. Our neighborhood does not have an HOA, so this was managed by homeowners. So because the developer is still in control. So we developed this group to kind of facilitate our concerns. Ideally, myself and other homeowners are very candid. We prefer for this type of industrial building not to be in our backyards. It is a 24-hour operation. It is in close proximity to our homes. But when we kind of did the history and knowledge, we kind of understood a little bit more about how these applications work and just the history of, you know, how things happen with this application. We just kind of took it upon ourselves, hey, we'll just try to work with Capital Electric and try to come together and have, you know, have a list of concessions and try to figure out how we both can work through it versus try to post together, because it didn't seem like it would be the best option. So over these last 2 years, we have several meetings with Arthur Horn as well as Tim McGowan and all the other representatives. We've been back and forth, and they've been good. I mean, again, you know, our interest is different. It's a personal interest for us because we live here, and it's more a financial interest because they work for a company and make money. If we just point blank, that's just how it works. So we come to agreement, and we knew it wasn't going to be perfect. I will agree that, but they have a list of concessions that did incorporate into their plan, and we definitely appreciate that. And I want to be clear, we appreciate what they incorporated. We kind of fall a little bit, but we got there. But we do have a couple concerns that I want to voice that we want to ensure that we do our due diligence. One is a lot of my neighbors, including myself, we want to ensure that the noise study was conducted in a way that accurately measured the noise for the third level townhomes. Our third level townhomes have bedrooms on the top floors where families will be sleeping overnight. And we want to ensure that the noise study accurately measured the projected noise that will transfer to the third levels, and that the noise study is not limited or focused only on ground noise. If this detailed site plan is approved and the wall and the berm is installed and it's not effective against noise, we homeowners want to know what's the next course, because we went through this and it was a nightmare with the demolition. It was a nightmare because they were working overnight. They got fined, and I hate to correct Mr. Arthur Horn, but they got fined because they were working in the middle of the night. And there was some other issues that were there. We won't go into that. So we had to call 311 and wait, and they're like, hey, it takes 45 days for you to get a response. So we need to know, hey, we know Capital Electric is willing to do this berm and wall, but if it's not effective and we're not sleeping at night and it's a lot of noise, who do we go to? Because 311 and DPI is not very effective, because we've been down that road, and trust me, everybody on General Breeze knows everybody from DPI, and they know us. They probably got our number to block. But that's another story. So that's one question. Two is Capital Electric has agreed to increase the tree density between Capital Electric and the homes on General Breeze Drive. And again, this is because a lot of those trees did go during the first construction, and a lot of them were dead. They had to be removed. But since we don't have the trail, since the trail's back there, and we agreed we didn't want the fence in our backyard, we couldn't have it at the trail in the middle. We just didn't want it all together. So we want to ensure that they're putting the berm, the trees, as well as the wall blocking noise, all that in phase one. We don't want to wait for this project takes a year and a half, and then they put the wall up at the end. We want to be very transparent. We want that done early so we make sure noise is mitigated, because these loading docks are very, very close to the back of our homes. I don't know if the distance has been mentioned, but it's very close. And I have one other mention really quickly. Capital Electric has agreed to limit the hours.
Ms. White, take your time. Ms. White, take your time. If you have more things to bring to us, keep going. Don't worry about it.
Okay. I'm trying to be quick. I'm sorry if I'm talking fast, but I'm just trying to be quick.
No, you're fine. You're doing fine.
All right. Okay. And then Capital Electric has agreed to limit the hours for the access road and for the loading docks, because they're so close to the back of our homes. I think they're less than like 150 feet from the back of our doors. So they says, hey, you know, with our noise study, we'll limit those hours. We'll limit the access road. But at times, unforeseen circumstances can happen. We saw that with COVID, right? So we want to know if for any reason, which I know Capital Electric says, hey, this probably will never happen, but for any reason there was a new owner that came in for their current business, or if they were to change and a new business was to come in, we want to ensure that they adhere to those same hours for that access road and for those loading docks, that we don't have to fight a new company that says, hey, we can't have this noise behind our house. So I don't know if there can be restrictions to this application or conditions that says, hey, if there's any other tenants that come in or ownership changes, that they still have to adhere to those same hours. And then the fourth thing I've had is, this is a second extension if it's approved to this building. And I don't know, because if y'all go back and look at the distance of how close it is to the back of our homes, can we say, hey, this is the last addition that it's very close, the quality of life will be interfered with these homeowners, and that you cannot do another addition on this side of the building just because of how close it is to the back of our homes. And again, I will reinforce, Capital Electric has been great. We probably would drink a beer, go to a baseball game with them, play golf with them. They're really nice men. So we're not being personal, but it's just more so like protecting our investment and our quality of life 6 months from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. So we have to do our due diligence just to make sure we're covered as homeowners and just as a person. And I hope they understand, our concerns. We're not trying to go against them. We're just trying to be good neighbors with them and just ensure that these conditions are addressed before something happens and we're angry because we've been up all night and we didn't get proper rest. Because I know everybody gets upset when you don't have proper rest, right? So we just want to make sure these things are covered. And that's all I have to say. Thanks so much for the extended time.
Thank you, Ms. White. Thank you for your leadership in the community too. Again, I imagine Mr. Horn and the team there will have specific responses to your questions and concerns. Next, we have Kira Terry. Ms. Terry, you're on the line? No. Orlando Oxenad?
Yeah, I'm here. My name is Orlando.
Sorry, I mispronounced your name.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, my name is Orlando Oxenad, and I also live on Gentle Breeze Drive. And, I was affected also by the construction that took place, over the last couple of years. Thank you all so much for accommodating us as residents to, listen to our concerns. As stated previously by just about everyone, Capital Electric is a great neighbor. We enjoy having their presence in our county and their contributions that they are actually making. As a resident, we have concerns about what's going on back there. My biggest concern is moving forward, the level of noise that we might be exposed to. As indicated, there are certain abatement processes that they are putting in place. And as Irma just said, our bedrooms are up on the third floor of our homes, and our concern is how the noise might move out, going forward. So we want to make sure that these concerns are addressed in the future. Capital Electric diligently planted a lot of trees. My concern is what are the plans for maintaining those trees? Because I've noticed that quite a few of the trees that have been planted already are dying. So I'm not sure what kind of plans they have to, one, not only plant the trees, but maintain them. Also going forward, as stated by most of my neighbors, is at what phase are they going to start planting the trees? Because where the trees are currently, that's away from the construction area. So we're wondering if in the interest of expediency, they could start planting these trees once the detailed site plan has been approved, and actually doing this in the first phase and not waiting until the third or last phase. And also in making their selection of trees, if they could also select fast-growing trees and not necessarily something that's going to take 3 to 5 years before it actually comes to its full height. Those are my only concerns. As I said earlier, they're great neighbors. They've been very accommodating. I think they have gone above and beyond to meet with us, to accommodate us, and take our concerns seriously. That's my contribution.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here. And last, we have Syria Randolph. Ms. Randolph, you're on the line.
I'm here. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I've been sworn in. My main concern is that, I think I speak for all of us. We first purchased, this is my first home. And when I purchased this house, we had a wood a lot. No we had no idea that Capital Electric would even be built behind our house, right? I got to enjoy my house for about 6 months before, they tore down all the trees and then like the heavy demolition. There was a lot of damage to my home, a lot of hairline cracks, nail pops everywhere, house selling at an unnatural rate. I've even had to have, I forget I'm getting nervous. The other guy, he came out, the inspector, the inspector for PG County came out to inspect my home. There were times like my house was shaking, things are falling. So I don't know about the penetration and the noise studies and all that. That's not my expertise. Nonetheless, luckily my house was under a 1-year contract or warranty, so they came out and repaired a lot of those things. My main concern with that was, okay, if you guys come, you're going to be closer to our homes at this time. So we sustain more damage or further injury to our home, who's going to be responsible for that, right? So I was thinking about that. And then with this new building you guys proposed, I think it was just of January or February where you guys didn't give us any type of warning about your operating hours, and you're operating like 24 hours. Just this morning at 4 a.m., you guys had delivery out there this morning. And I've got video of different mornings where you're out there 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. These trucks are sitting outside, they're idling, using air horns. And I think one time you guys have like a metal scrap can in the back where you guys were throwing metal in there like 4 o'clock in the morning. So honestly, my health has worsened a lot as a direct result of this situation. So I am naturally concerned about it. I'm concerned I'm not getting enough sleep at night, and my job and livelihood could be at risk. And I feel like, just the other night, y'all put this trail back here. Somebody was riding a moped at like 12:30 at night. I think it was like May 30th or May 31st. So there's always the security issues there and the foot traffic behind the homes. But the main thing is, like I said, going forward, this noise study, like I've been deprived from sleep a lot of nights. And to be honest, in my profession, I deal with people's lives on a daily basis. So it's risky for me if I'm not getting sleep. So I could kill somebody, honestly. And I'm just staying more prayerful, but I just feel like we didn't never have a choice in this matter. And it hurts me to see that. Like, this is my first home. I wanted to be able to enjoy it. And we have no privacy. And it's just like, I just didn't sign up for this. So I feel like, yes, they've been like nice in hearing our concerns and everything like that. But reality is, when I complained about this noise early on this year, it was like, they just said it was unfortunate. That's the response I got. And I can see that because you're still delivering at 4 o'clock just this morning. Like, it was a good while we didn't hear anything. But I have video of all the times where I've been disturbed, and it's a few of them. And I just record now. When I get up in the morning, if my sleep is disturbed, I record. So I do have a few recordings. And like I said, my health has declined. I have documentation for that too. I'm just scared, honestly. So I don't know. Again, I do want to make sure that I need to feel like your guys are out of sight and out of mind. I don't want to see anything back there. I don't want to hear anything back there. So if y'all can get that together, then I'm all for it. But if it's going to be this nightmare, like 3 years of just dealing with random noises, like I think, like I said, just this year when they started doing the 24 hours, we weren't made aware of that. And I feel like if we're going to be cooperative together, I think we should have known, like, hey guys, by the way, expect this. And even when I asked, like, hey, well, to mitigate, because I tried to work with them and say, hey, well, the days that you guys are going to have deliveries at 4 o'clock in the morning, can you kind of let us know? So maybe I can find another sleeping area or something like that so I'm not disturbed. No response with that. And it's just like, the homeowners, we don't have any say in any of this. Like, we just bought a house and we just fell into all of this stuff and we didn't even have a choice. The sellers didn't tell us that this was going on. No one told us anything. And I feel like I get that they're bringing you money in, but we brought money into this county too. We purchased these homes on these lots. So that shouldn't be an issue. I get that you're trying to make money, but the reality is I'm trying to live. And that's all I have with that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Randolph. I really appreciate it. And we hear you loud and clear. Anyone else who has signed up to speak that I missed, I listed? Okay. So commissioners, are there any questions for any of the folks who spoke? We're going to turn to the applicant for rebuttal and then close. But I just want to make sure, Commissioner Giraldo or Vice Chair Bailey, if there's anything that you have for any of the folks.
No questions at this time.
I have none.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thanks to both of you. So, Mr. Horn, we'll turn back to you for rebuttal and then close.
Yes.
And if you want anyone else to speak, let me know and I'll swear them in.
Thank you.
Back to you, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Will need others to speak here. I just want to, the notes I took, we're gonna discuss the level of noise issue, and we have Ms. Eversole who is going to testify here. And then the other information about the timing of the walls and the work. We certainly have Mr. McGowan here who can talk about that and talk about his interaction with the community. So let me start with Mr. McGowan, if he's available. And
I am.
Okay. And
Mr. Horn, let me, anyone who's going to be speaking, let me just swear you all in at once. So we have Mr. McGowan, we have Ms. Eversole. Anyone else you think will be speaking?
Well, and Mr. Woodburn, who they've talked about, Mr. Orlando talked about the planting of the trees and how fast and the growing of the trees, and he can probably say what type of trees that are being planted.
Okay, Mr. Woodburn.
Why don't we swear in Anthony Fleming, because he might be able to.
And Mr. Fleming as well, who's the operations at
all right, if I can ask all of you to come online, at least audio, if not video. All right. Do you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do, yes.
All right, great. So consider yourselves all under oath. And Mr. Horn, take it away.
Okay. Yeah, so Mr. McGowan, why don't we start with you with the questions that were raised by the community. If you need any assistance as far as what they said, I can let you know, but I think you heard what they were saying.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank all the neighbors from the Westphalia community. We have had a very, very open, transparent, and positive relationship, and I think it's added a lot of quality to the building and the operation that we are bringing to the community. And I just want to let it be known that we appreciate the relationship that we have with the neighbors. And we are listening and making changes because of the feedback that we have received. As far as the early phase of the construction, it was mentioned that several of the neighbors mentioned that they would like to have the installation of the sound barriers and trees be part of the early phases of the construction. And our construction team has discussed this, and we are in fact going to focus on the east side of the property and erect these the sound barrier and the trees, put the trees in early on in the process. There obviously there's some construction footers and things of that nature that are going to have to be put in place. But I assure the neighbors that our plan is to install the sound wall and the tree barrier as one of the first things that we address as the construction proceeds. Let's see, I'm gonna allow the tree density and the type of trees. I'm gonna defer that to Mr. Woodburn because he's more attuned to that. The other thing is we put in place regarding Ms. Randolph's comments, and I really do try to put myself in the shoes of the neighbors. I have a family myself, and early on we actually walked the trail with the neighbors, and I've got a great deal of empathy in terms of their concerns. I mean, we didn't know they were coming. They didn't know we were coming. We met in the middle of our respective operations, and we're all trying to do the right thing. So as far as Miss Randolph is concerned, I do appreciate your concerns. We put an email address out, and my phone number has been there. I did get a call, Miss Randolph, regarding the metal dumpster, and I was back to her within 10 minutes after speaking with Mr. Fleming, and we made operational changes to that facility. A lot of the noise, we actually turned the lights off on the east side of our yard, and now have put them on 30% dimming, so that we could, until all the barriers and things of that nature are established, we're mitigating the light trespass. We have changed the direction of the pole lights, and I assure you, if I get become aware of any comment coming from the neighbors, it's something that I take very seriously, and I respond back to them. As far as the I will have to take exception to the comment that nobody knew that we were going to start operation and moving into the building on the 20th of January. That's something that was discussed in our meetings. I'm sorry that maybe some people in the meetings didn't get the message, but we are, we had a very definite plan over a year and a half in terms of planning for the move. As you know, our facility previously was over at the Pepco Place building, which was approximately 2 miles by road, probably 500 yards by the distance the crow flies. But we tried to make every accommodation in communication for that. As far as the expansion of the property, quite candidly, I don't see any additional expansion happening on this property. Anthony Fleming, you can certainly comment on that as well, because there's really no left or right or north or south or east or west that we can go further in this property as the future moves forward. Art, I think I addressed the issues that were there. All the noise. I'd like to defer to Erica because she's the expert in that area.
Well, I just want to point out that it's something that you continuously point out, that with you and Anthony, that operationally, and Ms. White mentioned that, what happens afterwards, that, operationally, you guys are in a position where you can adjust if something is wrong. And so I don't want to testify for you, but you can talk to.
Yeah, one of the things we did operationally, we adjusted our plans by restricting access to the access road going up the east side of the building to the north docks from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. As a result of the noise study and as a result of mitigating factors. So we are very agile and flexible, and as we learn more, we will adjust to accommodate our relationships with the neighbors, and operationally we'll make additional changes as necessary. So thank you, Art, and thank you very much, Mr. Shapiro, and members of the committee to receive our comments.
Okay. And Mr. Woodburn, talk to us about the plantings.
Well, before that, I have to thank Orlando for bringing that up, because it gives me the opportunity to congratulate the commission for elevating Sherry to that position. She is an amazing asset for the commission, and you guys need to retain her, that's for sure. So I congratulate you for that. Very good. We have spent quite a bit of time in-house with Capital Electric and with the Westphalia neighborhood, and particularly Orlando, who has taken significant interest in the landscaping. So as part of the landscape proposal, we are reforesting, I would say, with mature trees, the 40-foot landscape buffer, which is, you can see on the screen, between the existing hiker biker trail and the property. adjacent residential properties. So it's kind of twofold. We are replanting the buffer, but we're also lining the trail, as you say, with fast-growing Leland cypress trees to help to quickly bring in a buffering and screening aspect to the neighbors. So without getting the details of every tree and shrub, I think the answer is yes, we are putting the fast-growing trees, and as I think Mr. Horn had said earlier, 50% more to try to help things come back and heal quicker. And I know if any of you get the opportunity to go out, you can see that it is healing. It takes time for woodland to come back, but it is coming back, and it looks pretty healthy.
Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Everson, there was a couple of members of the community were concerned about the noise study, concerned about their the noise on the third floor in their bedroom. Can you tell the planning board, and let's just mention a little bit about your study and how you believe, if you believe that the noise emanating from the Capital Electric site will not be impactful on their third floor rooms?
Yeah, so just as a way of introduction, my name is Erica Ebersole. I am an acoustical engineer with Phoenix Noise and Vibration.
And you were sworn in. You were sworn in.
Yes, I was sworn in. I have been the lead engineer on this project since it started back in 2023. Just a little bit background information. So you guys have probably heard of the decibel, which is the way that we measure sound. If you've ever seen it denoted dBA with that A on the end, it's actually referring to what we call A weighting. And A weighting accounts for how the human ear hears things. So I'm sure that many of us know that dogs can hear things that humans may not be able to perceive. So the A weighting basically comes in on what the human ear can typically hear in that sense. So our noise study, we started with noise measurements. We actually went out onto the site. Capital Electric was kind enough to provide us with different operational trucks and things that we actually took measurements of the equipment that is going to be used out there. And we take that and we put it into a 3D computer model. So I appreciate that you guys brought up the noise level in those third floor bedrooms. So our computer noise model actually does account for the noise at those areas. Typically speaking, standard construction offers about 20 decibels of noise reduction. So whatever noise you hear outside, it's going to be reduced about 20 decibels. And that is without any upgrade of exterior walls or exterior windows or anything. So when you account for that, the noise level within those third floor bedrooms is going to be a maximum of 37 decibels at nighttime is what our computer model calculated. So as a little bit of a reference, talking, just having a conversation with someone 3 feet away is about 65 decibels. Anything 10 decibels greater is considered twice as loud, or 10 decibels less is considered half as loud. So if 55 decibels at that point would be considered half as loud as two people talking back and forth in the bedroom. So to put that in perspective, we are basically down at 37 decibels. So almost 30 decibels below that 65 kind of typical talking noise.
And that conclusion based on the site having the walls.
Correct. That is accounting for the noise barriers and the noise berm as specified that Capital Electric is planning to build.
And just to be clear, you're addressing the townhomes to the east of the site.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So I have a question. I think the concern that I heard from the neighbors, and maybe it's, I don't even quite understand it, so I imagine they won't either. I think that the fantasy is that the noise barriers won't be tall enough so that if you're on the third floor of a townhouse, then then it's going to be noisier than if you're on the first or second floor of your townhouse. I mean, is that the way it works from your professional experience?
So there is a little bit of truth in that statement. Typically speaking, the higher up you get, and this is with any noise source, not even with barriers or without, this is just any noise source, the higher up you get, the louder the noise is going to be. But at those third floor bedrooms with the barriers will be sufficient to mitigate that noise level inside of those rooms. So when they're sleeping at night, the noise level will, based off of our modeling, the noise levels will not exceed 37 decibels. And that's at the inside at those third floors.
Okay, thank you for that.
And let me just add, the barriers are not 10 foot across the way. They vary in size. Most of are higher. Is that correct?
Yes, one of the barriers at certain locations gets up to 23 feet tall.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's the applicant's case, that we wanted to make sure that, again, this being a detailed site plan, that we stated with the proposed applicant exhibit 1 that we have met all the criteria for approval and for a DSP amendment to the CSP in this case. However, as we know, this was an unusual situation in the sense that there was some stated concerns from the adjacent property owners that the applicant, wanted to make sure that they reached out and addressed. And when these issues were brought up, the Capital Electric went out and said, okay, let's see what we can do to try to make sure that we all can be on one accord and agreement. So I think that, with the statements and the testimony of the people here, and with the information that's provided, that we ask the board to approve DSP and amendment of the CSP. And just as a statement to Ms. White, who's been sort of the leader of the community, and the rest of the people who testified, sort of say thank you, that this hearing doesn't end today. Again, they have the contact information, from Mr. McGowan and all, and they will continue to have regular meetings and, try to work that. If there's any issues that come up in the future, they'll work through them. But right now, this application and all, would be something that is approved that will be beneficial for, of course, not only the applicant, but Prince George's County and the community as a whole. So we ask for your full support on this application.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. We have heard the rebuttal from the applicant and the close by Mr. Horn. We've got nothing else for us on that. I will close this public hearing.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
It's to us for deliberation.
Yep. So,
I'm sorry. Before I close the hearing, Commissioner, if you have questions, please.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Horn, my question is, based upon what Mr. McGowan testified to, that they're going to put the sound barrier and take care of the lighting and the beginning stages of the development. What assurances can the applicant give, other than his word here, that that's going to be taken care of? Can that be done in the form of a proffer?
It can, if that's the board's desire.
Well, I'm just worried about the concern that the neighbors have with the noise and the sound and everything. So
Arthur, this is Tim. Could I address one more thing here with Commissioner Giraldo? Look, you mentioned lighting. We can't put the lighting on until the building's up, right?
Right.
So
right.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I want to clarify that. You know, the issue that the neighbors seemed to bring up was the erection of the sound barrier wall and the trees, and the installation of the trees. Okay, and we would be glad to, as Mr. Horn mentioned, we'd be glad to make a representation about the construction plan. A proffer would probably be some kind of written document.
It would be added to the condition of the approval of the DSP and amendment to the CSP here.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so I can meet with the construction team, and we can certainly put the construction schedule and be very specific regarding the construction of the sound barrier and the planting of the trees. Very clearly stated that it would be in the early phases of the construction project.
Ms. Tallarico, any concerns
does that answer
with
your
accepting
question,
that
sir?
proffer and having that be part of the have that be a condition if it's proffered?
If the applicant is proffering that condition, it's acceptable to include it. I would say that I think we'll need some wording for it, which maybe I could suggest would be the applicant proffers to provide a construction schedule prior to certification of the site plan, demonstrating that the sound barriers and trees within the buffer yard will be installed during an early phase of construction. I understand, after the footers, but prior to, I'm not sure what the rest of it is on the timing, but something to that effect, I think is what they were looking for.
Yeah, something to that effect will work. Well, only thing we would say though is the timing couldn't be certification because that's too early in the process. I would be grading, fine grading permit, because by that time they'll know, when the construction will occur and all, and they will be pulling their permits and stuff. So the timing should be at least a little later. And
yeah, I think fine grading permit issuance is the right point.
Commissioner Giraldo, does that make sense to you?
How our council decides the best way to. Right, I understand that you got to do the footers and stuff, and you can't put the wall up before you put the footers. But Ms. Tallarico, if you could state it as recommended by Mr. Horn or proffered by Mr. Horn, and do it so that it makes sense during the construction process.
Okay, yeah, we can draft something to that effect, I believe.
I see Ms. Randolph's hand up, and it is appropriate for there to be cross by party in opposition. So, Ms. Randolph, if you have questions for Mr. Horn or the applicant, by all means,
I just have one question.
And ask your question.
No, I just had the one question regarding the noise that from the current building. These deliveries, it's been a concern for a while, and I'm thinking that's the root cause of a lot of the issues I've been having. And I wanted to know, is there anything we can do to kind of mitigate that right now until you guys, if they approve this plan and then they can implement the other things, is there anything we can do so that I can get sleep at night?
Well, let me ask Mr. Fleming, who was sworn in, about this schedule of deliveries, its operation now, if he wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so this is Anthony Fleming, and I was sworn in. The scheduled deliveries, just so everyone knows on the call, we have trucks departing starting at 1 a.m. in the morning. And then we also have inbound trucks arriving at about 4 a.m. in the morning. And we have done, everything that we can think of currently to even using the far end of our loading dock and truck court yard of actually, staging trailers and product that doesn't get moved very often on that far end of the yard to try to create a barrier between us and the townhomes and try to minimize any noise that actually bleeds over to them. And we've also, like on the metal dumpster situation that was brought up, once I got the call from Tim McGowan, we did a little bit of research, found out, who was involved in that. And then, we've spoke to the individuals and asked them, when we're disposing of metal into the metal dumpster, to wait till after 7 a.m. to do that. And we're also, trying to move that dumpster further away from the townhomes as well, to mitigate any noise that, from metal being dropped into a metal dumpster, it does make a noise. And we've said all along, and I think everyone should have the contact information to Tim McGowan and myself. If there are any issues, please reach out to us, and we will do everything that we can possibly do to reduce the noise, eliminate the noise, everything we can, and still run the business. So.
Thank you for that. And let me just say, Ms. Randolph, just to be clear, that the operations are not actually what's before us. It's more about the physical site elements. But you have a platform, and you're here, and they're hearing you, and I imagine the conversations will continue. So it's helpful for us to hear that they are hearing your concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to say, of course, the existing building is already approved and all, but again, it just shows that Capital Electric has always been very open and cooperative with the community, and any way they can approve and work with them, they will. So,
okay.
I'm just going to
Ms.
say
Randolph,
this hasn't been my first
I don't know if you have
time
another
bringing
question,
this.
Ms. White.
This isn't my
Ms. White
first
has her hand
time.
up too. Ms. Randolph, you have an additional
Okay.
question though?
No, I'm just saying, like, I understand what he said, but this isn't my first time addressing. This is probably like my third or fourth time, so it's nothing new. I do see where they lately. Sometimes I haven't heard a lot. They have put stuff back here, but to be honest, that truck that was there this morning at 4 a.m., they were closer to our property line. Like, they were on the back side of the building. Like, I have video, but nonetheless, this is the thing that's been keeping me up. I've been stressed, so I'm just trying to figure out, like, the rest of the stuff, I can almost say I don't even care about it, but I do. But this is something that's directly affecting me and my health. And
Okay.
yeah, like, it's not good for me. And
Mr. Chairman,
worried.
this is Tim McGowan, and Ms. Randolph. Let me just commit so we can make sure that you get dressed. I will call you after this meeting's over, and I will meet you on the bike path outside your home, and I'll talk to you further about this. And I promise you, these situations operationally will be addressed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I have your telephone number.
to call. Ms. White, you had your hand up. You have something you want to ask about it?
Thanks, Chairman. I'll be very brief. I did have one question, and again, we agree. We're happy that Capital Electric and we all came to agreement on the wall and all the other items that were listed. But one question I do have, because I just want to kind of understand a little bit better. And in a perfect world, the wall will be effective and will be great, and nobody has any interruption in sleep. But if there happens to, let's just say a year from now, this application is approved and they're full operational, and the noise is not effective, at that time the application is approved, so we wouldn't come back to the board. So what leverage would we have at that point after everything's approved, and this planning group wouldn't address that? Is our only alternative the 311 number? I mean, I know we can go back to Capital Electric, but I'm just saying what options. I just want to make sure I get a clear understanding on that. And then the one other thing I was going to ask really quickly is, I know that Capital Electric is limiting the hours for the access road and loading docks. And I know some of the other homeowners are not on the call. We're asking would that be like put in writing somewhere for reassurance for the homeowners? Like I feel pretty confident that, you know, Tim is a great man and, you know, they would adhere to that. But let's just say, you know, 5 years from now, he's not working there, somebody else is not working there. Some of the homeowners are saying, will there be anything in writing to show that that access road and loading docks, they would be limited during those hours that they're stating? Thanks.
That's good question. So, if the noise, if they're in some violation of the noise ordinance, then you go through DPI. That's the Department of Permitting, Inspections, and Enforcement. 311 is a way in, but there are other ways in too. That might be more effective for you. And Mr. Horn, if you can address the issue around the issues related to the loading dock or the road access, how that gets memorialized in a way that lives beyond Mr. McGowan.
Yes, this would be part of the approved DSP. It can be placed as a condition. It's already a condition on our noise study that's subject to this application. So it travels with the property. So we can add it as a condition. And I'm trying to recall if it's already on there, because again, based on the fact that we've proffered that we're putting the gate up and that we are not operating on the east side between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. So we will add that as a proffer. Again, it will travel with the property.
So Ms. White, it's in writing. It's not based upon the word of Mr. McGowan. It's in writing, and it will be in the documents that are approved.
Perfect.
It's on the, it'll be on the certified site plan. It's already on there and noted.
Okay, excellent.
It's just your zoning plan.
Yeah.
That
White
is
said,
not a
Mr. Orlando has a question. I'm sorry, Ms. Tallarico.
I just wanted to jump in and note that it is not I don't believe, just scanning through quickly, that the hours were put in as a condition of approval, primarily because site plan doesn't per se regulate operational aspects. However, if it's something that the applicant wants to proffer that as another condition voluntarily, of course, or is it just to clarify for the community if you're saying it's already on the site plan as a note?
It's on note, and the plan will be certified. But again, if they want it as a condition, that's fine. But it'll be part of the site plan, so they'd have to adhere to it.
Got it. Yep. Okay. Just for my notes as well.
So I have a question.
Yeah, is this Mr. Orlando? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Giraldo, go ahead.
Yeah, the question is, I'm not sure right now. So Ms. Tallarico, you're saying you're going to put it as a condition? So I want to be clear, so when the motion is made.
That one,
okay.
I don't believe that's what the applicant was proffering.
Okay.
Yeah, but I won't speak for them.
I mean, it's already on a certified plan, or soon to be certified plan. It's already on the plan. I mean, if you prefer it to be a condition, it's not a problem, but it'll be duplicative because it's already on the plan.
So maybe if that could be explained to the residents as to what it means by it's on the plan, that might be satisfactory to them. That's all I'm thinking.
Well, the purpose of the hearing today is to approve this detailed site plan, and Mr. Woodburn has drawn the plan, and it has to be certified, and the building permits and all will be issued pursuant to the requirements of the plan. And so therefore, everything that's on the plan will be required to be adhered to before them to get a building permit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Horn. It's just for the benefit. I mean, I understand it's just for the benefit of the residents. I appreciate your explanation and your collaboration.
That's helpful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. We had another resident who had a question. Was that Orlando Osnut? We don't hear you if you're speaking. Ms. White, you said that he had a question. Yeah, he may be muted.
I think he said his mic was muted. He was trying to come off mute, but he couldn't speak. So I don't know. I'll see if he'll send me his message, and if so, I'll put it in the chat. Okay.
No.
Yeah, we actually don't have folks speak on behalf of other folks. So
okay. Well, I don't know what happened then. Sorry.
That's all right. All right. Are there anything else on Cross? Many of the residents know. Mr. Horn, you still have the final word. I know you closed, but is there anything else that you want to do in closing?
No, just to thank you for the time and request the support, and again thank the community for coming out and expressing their opinions as well.
Okay, thank you. So I will now close this public hearing, and commissioners, it's to us for any deliberation and then action. So under deliberation, let me just say I want to thank the very obvious and demonstrated collaboration between this property owner, this business, and the folks in the community. As many of the folks in the community said, this isn't about making them happy all the time, but it is about communication. It is around collaboration, and it's nice to see, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate the openness and the frankness and the real dialogue that's going on. It's great to see. So that's all I wanted to say under deliberation. And commissioners, Madam Vice Chair, Commissioner Giraldo, anything that you want to bring for the good of the order?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to also thank the neighbors for coming to the meeting, for the community, and expressing their concerns, and especially working with Capital Electric. Well, I also want to thank Capital Electric for being mindful of its neighbors. Given what they've testified today, I foresee that they'll continue to be cooperative. And Mr. McGowan was agreeing to meet with the one neighbor who's having that problem. And as a board, we like to see that type of collaboration. And so given that, Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve DSP 18020-01, the amendment to CSP 11003, and the Type 2 Tree Conservation Plan, TCP 2002-2015-02, subject to the findings and conditions in the staff report as modified by applicants Exhibit Number 1 and Exhibit Number 2. Exhibit Number 2 being the removal of the chain link fence as requested by the neighbors, which applicants agreed to voluntarily remove. And also with the proffer that was made by Mr. Horn, and to be written by our counsel, Ms. Talavero, and I ask for approval. And I think I've captured everything, Ms. Tellerico.
Second, okay. Second, and I would like to associate myself with comments made by my colleagues in terms of a participation from the community and the applicant.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Giraldo. I think that captured it, unless I see any concerns from Ms. Connor, Mr. Mitchum, Mr. Horn, Ms. Tellerico. We're good to go. All right. If there's no further discussion on this motion, I will call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thank you, everybody, for all the really, really good work on this process. Mr. Mitchum, thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, moving on to item 7 on our agenda. Do you need, Mr. Giraldo and Ms. Bailey, you need a quick break?
Like 10 minutes if possible, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, let's do it. So it's 11:44. Let's go till 5 of 12, 11:55.
Thank you.
No. It is 11:55. We're back from a 10-minute recess. We are on our regular agenda items, and we are on item 7. This is a special permit SP 230001, Town Square at Suitland Federal Center, Phase 2. We have Mr. Horn, who is representing the applicant. We have Mr. Hurlbut, who's going to be giving the staff presentation. This is an evidentiary hearing. I don't think we have anyone signed up to speak, but if we do, we will swear them in at the appropriate time, and we will start with staff. Mr. Hurlbut, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Planning Board. For the record, I'm Jeremy Hurlbut, the Zoning Section Supervisor. Item 7 on the agenda is Special Permit SP 230001, titled Town Square, Suitland Federal Center, Phase 2. There's also an associated major departure application, MJD 2024-003. This application is for the replacement of 2 single-family detached dwelling units that were previously approved with a plan to be replaced with 9 single-family attached dwelling units. Prior to the Tuesday noon deadline, the applicant provided an exhibit which included a revision to condition 1A, which has been included in the additional backup. Staff is in agreement with the proposed change. We also received 1 letter in opposition to the special permit prior to the Tuesday noon deadline. The letter expressed concerns of community engagement, crime prevention, construction, pedestrian and vehicle access and circulation, as well as traffic and parking concerns. With respect to the community engagement, the applicant followed all required notice procedures for the special exception application. Access and circulation are addressed in finding 14C of the technical staff report, and the overall development plan addresses crime prevention, traffic calming, parking, and other issues raised. The applicant may be able to speak more to how they will be able to provide continual access to the neighboring dwelling units during construction. In conclusion, staff recommends the Planning Board adopt the findings of the approved special permit SP 230001 and major departure MJD 2024-003, subject to the conditions found in the staff report as revised by applicant's exhibit number 1. This concludes staff's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hurlbut. Commissioners, any questions for staff before we turn to the applicant? Seeing none, Mr. Horn.
Good morning again, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Board. For the record, Arthur Horn, the law office of Shipley and Horn here in Largo, Maryland. With me today is land planner, Mr. Andrew Shelley. The applicant, I'm here on behalf of the applicant, the Redevelopment Authority for Prince George's County, represented by Mr. Jerry Conahia. The applicant's representative is CJR Legal, represented here this morning by Mr. Harold Johnson and Ms. Vanessa Battle. The civil engineers are Atwell, represented by Mr. Barry Kaysen and Mr. Kevin Garvey. The landscape engineer architect for Parker Rodriguez is Mr. Dan Averett. And the builders of the homes, NVR Homes, represented by Mr. Joe Flynn and Mr. Justin Valdez. Again, Mr. Chair, I'm very pleased to be here this morning representing the applicant as they continue to complete this transformation in the Suitland area, wherein there are now townhouses, there's a senior housing component, there's upcoming multi-family facility, retail and community attractions are also planned. That the synergy that's being felt between the residents and the federal government facilities that are across the street have really improved, and that several of their employees have now moved into some of these townhomes. And I know Vice Chair Bailey knows the Suitland area very well and has seen that tremendous transformation that is taking place out there. We're also excited about that. The final phase of the development will include a proposed hotel and other commercial uses that shall be forthcoming in the application pretty soon. The addition of these 9 townhomes units are consistent with the previous development and the other townhome units. The applicant agrees with the staff recommendation, inclusive of the applicant's exhibit number 1, as Mr. Hurlbut indicate, is something that the staff agrees with, as well as the departure. And you know, Mr. Hurlbut mentioned about an email of in opposition, and although I understand the person is not signed up to speak, the applicant has been just recently made aware of this resident who sent in this letter of concern about receiving information and meetings. And on behalf of the applicant representative, again, they're here and they can testify if necessary, but I've been assured that this email will be addressed by this individual who they know very well, who lives there. The applicant, although in addition to what Mr. Hurlbut said about the notice, the applicant has been able to document dozens of meetings with the community and the homeowners association, the neighborhood, and all the issues raised in that email have been addressed, the applicant, and all the questions raised have been addressed as well. Developer is on site, and the community leadership within that student area has direct contact information with CGR Legal as well as the Redevelopment Authority. So the applicant just wanted to make sure we reiterated that the information that we received from this letter is not new, and that they have in fact addressed these concerns of this one individual who has been a resident for a couple of years now. They've been working with her for a couple of years. So we wanted just to say that. Other than that, we are supportive of the application with the amendment. I do want to take a second to thank Ms. Dominique Lockhart for Parker Planning, who's, if her last day hadn't occurred, I understand it's pretty soon. She was a staff person on this particular application, worked very hard and very well with us, along with Mr. Hurlbut, and we're able to come to a solution with the applicant's Exhibit 1, but also they visited the site, they worked through some suggestions and stuff, so really appreciate their effort. And we thank you and ask for your support in this application.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. I appreciate you taking the few minutes to address the concerns that we have in the correspondence. It's helpful to hear, very much so. We don't have anyone who's signed up to speak on this beyond members of the applicant's team, unless I'm missing anything. So we will close the public hearing, and commissioners turn to us for any deliberation, and if not, action.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt SP-23001 and NJD 2024-003, subject to the conditions set forth in the staff report, subject to the findings and the conditions set forth in the staff report, as further modified by applicant's exhibit number 1.
You're on mute, Ms. Bailey, but I saw a second. That's definitely a second.
I didn't realize I was on mute. Second. Yeah.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Under discussion, just want to say that appreciate all the good work that's been done. This truly is a transformative project. And Mr. Johnson, good to see you. And Mr. Flynn, all the good work that MBR Homes has as well. It's a fabulous project for the Suitland area.
Thank you, Chair.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thank you, staff, and thank you to Mr. Horn, the applicant's team, everybody. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And congratulations, Sherry.
Thank you, sir. We'll now move on to item 8 on our agenda. You may notice the theme. It's the Arthur Horn Day at the Planning Board. This is a preliminary plan subdivision 4-22033 Carrozza property. This is a a request for a continuance. We have Mr. Diaz-Campbell going to give a brief staff presentation. Then we may hear from Mr. Horn, but we'll turn to Mr. Diaz-Campbell first.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, or good afternoon, rather. For the record, I'm Eddie Diaz-Campbell, Planner 3 with the Subdivision Section. Item number 8 on the agenda is the preliminary plan subdivision for the Carosa property, 4-22033. The subject project proposes 199 lots and 39 parcels for the development of 199 single-family attached dwellings, 401 multifamily dwellings, and 50,000 square feet of commercial development. The applicant has requested a continuance of the case in order to allow for additional time to coordinate with staff on issues related to police response times for the development. Resolution of these issues is necessary before the preliminary plan's associated certificate of adequacy, ADQ-2022-014, can be approved. The certificate in turn must be approved prior to approval of the preliminary plan by the planning board. Staff agrees with the continuance request and recommends that the case be continued to July 11, 2024. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz-Campbell. If there's no questions for staff, Mr. Horn, anything you want to add?
No, just good afternoon again. Nothing to add. Thank you very much for your consideration for the request for the continuance until July the 11th.
Okay. There's nobody who else who has any comments on this. Then, commissioners, what is your pleasure on this item?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the continuance of this application 4-22033 to the date of July 11th, 2024.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Giraldo, second by Vice Chair Bailey. If there's no discussion, I will call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Diaz-Campbell. Thank you, Mr. Horn.
Appreciate it. Y'all have a good afternoon.
You too. We now have item 9 on our agenda. This is through the Office of Planning Director. We have 2 legislative drafting requests, LDR 82-2024 and LDR 83-2024. We'll take them one at a time. We have Ms. Gomez Rojas, who's going to be giving the staff presentation on these. Take it away.
Good morning. I'm doing a quick sound check.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Thanks.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the board. For the record, I'm Natalia Gomez with the Planning Director's Office. Item number 9 on the agenda is a legislative drafting request, LDR 82-2024. As the chairman mentioned, this is the first of 2 legislative drafting requests that we will be presenting today. Next slide, please. So this LDR proposes to amend a section of the zoning ordinance to prohibit LED lights in commercial storefronts to reduce the harmful effects of light pollution on the county's residents and neighborhoods. So this bill does not affect lights used to illuminate the storefront signs that are currently legal under the zoning ordinance. Next slide, please. This is what the sponsor proposed the way he proposed to amend the zoning ordinance. Essentially, LDR 82 would add a subsection F to section 27-6704, prohibited lighting, in part 6 of the zoning ordinance. This proposal would not only prohibit LED lights, but also target similar lighting that would attract attention to a non-residential use, except illuminated signs in accordance with the general standards for signage in section 27-61504. Next, please. So, as part of our review, we prepared a staff report that I assume is in your hands, and we also suggested a few edits because LDR was not necessarily drafted in a manner consistent with the legislative style and convention of the zoning ordinance. Next slide, please. So, the department's preliminary assessment is that most of the establishments that may be of concern were potentially approved under the prior ordinance and will not be impacted by this LDR in any way. And in the same manner, LDR 82 would not apply to illuminated front signs that are currently legal. So essentially, those two will not be applicable if this happens to be approved. The department also identified a discrepancy between the purpose of the LDR and the language that is proposed for subsection F. So essentially, LDR intends to prohibit LED light and other lights of similar lighting in new commercial storefronts, but the language extends all the way to non-residential use. So this is something that we wanted to flag to the board. The proposed amendment also does not provide information, identify or defining the harmful effects of LED lighting, nor does it explain why LED lighting in particular is more harmful than other forms of lighting. In fact, Plan 2035 advocates for the use of low energy light sources, which includes LED lighting. Next slide, please. So based on the information received, the department interprets that LDR 82 would prohibit all types of LED, regardless of their flux and intensity. And in addition, the amendment is extended to other similar lighting, but it does not specify what types of lighting are considered similar to LED. And we believe that this can create confusions at the time of enforcing. And finally, the proposed amendment may not be applicable towards future applications associated with grandfathering. So this is we believe the third part that will be left out, along with applications that are approved under this or prior zoning ordinance and currently existing storefront signs. Next slide, please. So the department believes that the goals referenced by LDR 82-2024 are already addressing the zoning ordinance, particularly in section 27-6700, which already includes standards for exterior lighting, light spillage, glare, and light pollution. We believe that the more the current ordinance is used, more business will be subject to these standards. And based on our understanding of the LDR purpose, we consider that LDR 82 should provide amendments to the county's building codes in coordination with DPI instead of amending the zoning ordinance. This is because the department believed that the proposed amendment would require enforcement by the county that cannot be carried out through the zoning ordinance. And based on the analysis I provide you today, the planning department recommend the planning board oppose LDR 82-2024. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gomez. A lot of thoughtful work went into this. And commissioners, this LDR process is relatively new for us. So what staff's recommendation is to have us prepare a letter for the chair's signature opposing the applicable LDR with associated comments contained in the technical staff report. So that would be the motion. I don't know if you have any questions for staff before we take action.
I have no questions. I was just wondering when we file, if we vote to oppose it, whether or not we can have the recommendations or an analysis as to why it's being opposed.
And I think that's right. I mean, really, what we're doing is, if we take action on this, we would be preparing a letter opposing the LDR with the associated comments contained in the staff report.
Well, I have nothing further.
Okay. If not, then I'd look for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we oppose LDR 82-2024 and that a letter be written under your signature, giving the rationale as to why we oppose it.
Okay.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Ms. Tellerico, does that motion work in terms of the LDR process?
I believe so. Just to clarify, it does include that analysis in the technical staff report that the board's adopting. Correct? Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Okay. If there's no further discussion, I will call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Ms. Gomez, next one.
Oh, that's Rich. That's all by me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you very much. I see. Mr. Hall on the next one. You're on mute, Mr. Hall. You're actually not on mute, but we still can't hear you. Take your time, but I think you need to change which microphone you think you're speaking from. No luck yet. Let me suggest that we move on to item, Mr. Hall, you take your time, but let's move on to item 11 and 12. And then, Mr. Hall, maybe we can have staff work with you to figure out how to work through the technical issue. I know it'll be quick, but we want to get it right. So let's move on to item 11 on our agenda, Countywide Planning Division. Is the mandatory referral, MRF 2023-010, Margaret Brent Elementary School. Mr. Parker is representing the applicant. Mr. Ray will give the staff presentation on this item. I don't think we have anyone signed up to speak beyond representatives from other agencies who may or may not be adding something. We will start with staff. Mr. Ray, take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Chairman Shapiro, members of the Planning Board. For the record, my name is Bobby Ray with the Countywide Planning Division. Item 11 is a school replacement project proposed as part of the Phase 2 Blueprint Schools program. The project is a replacement of the existing Margaret Brent Regional Special Education Center, which was built in 1962. The existing building was recommended for a full replacement by the 2021 Prince George's County Public Schools Educational Facilities Master Plan. Next slide, please. The project is located at 5816 Lamont Terrace in the city of New Carrollton and is located within Council District 3. Next slide, please. The 12.9 acre site is located, as I've mentioned, at 5816 Lamont Terrace. The site is bounded by Lamont Drive to the east, Westbrook Drive to the north, Riverdale Road to the south, and Martina Terrace to the west. The New Carrollton Public Works Recycling Center.
Mr. Ray, hold on one sec. Mr. Hall, you want to try that again?
Yes, can you hear me now?
For a second.
You can hear me now?
Mr. Hall?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Okay, we'll come back to you, but your mic is working, and we'll continue with item 11, and we'll come right back to you. Mr. Ray, thank you.
Thank you.
Keep going.
Thank you.
No problem.
Sorry.
The New Carrollton Public Works Recycling Center is located northwest of the campus on Westbrook Drive, and the New Carrollton Branch Library building is located immediately south of the campus with vehicle access from Powhatan Street. Next slide, please. The property is zoned RSF 65. Next slide, please. Lamont Drive is designated as a master plan primary road in the 2009 approved countywide master plan of transportation. It has an ultimate right-of-way width of 60 feet with 2 vehicular travel lanes at ultimate build-out. The site plan was reviewed by the Transportation Review Section in Planning, as well as the Department of Permits, Inspection, and Enforcement, and the County Department of Public Works and Transportation. It is assumed by the applicant that 80% of the student enrollment is located within a designated walk zone. Next slide, please. From the aerial photo, you can see the location of the adjacent library to the south and the New Carrollton Recycling Center to the northwest. Next slide, please. A revised NRI for the site was resubmitted on June 17th. It is currently under review. At this time, it appears that there are no regulated features that are being impacted by the proposed campus. Next slide, please. As mentioned, this project is part of the second phase of the Prince George's County Public Schools Blueprint Schools program. There are 7 other campuses in this second phase. Templeton and Robert Frost schools have already been reviewed by the planning board, and we will have the remaining school projects coming forward at later dates. Next slide, please. The new school building will total approximately 58,667 square feet with a maximum height of 28 feet. Additional site features will include an outdoor classroom, garden plots, playground, and basketball court. Parking for the site includes a total of 105 spaces, with 6 designated for ADA compliance and 5 electric vehicle spaces. Lamont Terrace will continue to serve as the access for parking and student drop-off. Parcel 19, which you can see located at the southwest corner of the overall site, will provide access and queuing for bus traffic, as well as location of basketball courts and a playground. Access to the bus lot will be made available via an agreement with the New Carrollton Branch Library, located adjacent to Parcel 19 and south of the overall school site. Access to the library will be via the Powhatan Street. Next slide, please. And this is the front elevation of the proposed building. The applicant is planning to achieve LEED designation for the building. Next slide. And this is the rear elevation. Next slide. As far as the recommendations that are being put forward, the staff report does include several transportation-related recommendations. Number 4 in this group requests an upgrade to the footbridge located at Martina Terrace to accommodate bicyclists. There's also a recommendation for shared use path or sidewalk connections around the site. Next slide, please. Additionally, there are recommendations related to the new bus loop from the New Carrollton Library property to ensure that access, including emergency service access, are adequate to serve the site. And next slide. And these 3 recommendations address the operation of Lamont Drive and Westbrook Road, as well as Lamont Drive and Lamont Terrace. Concerns were expressed by DPI and DPWT regarding the operation of these 2 intersections. In response, there was a meeting held with the applicant and with the county representatives to discuss these concerns. There was an agreement that the applicant will work closely with the county and will develop a transportation management plan to address these issues. And at that time, there will be a determination if there is any mitigation that will be necessary to for the intersections if issues are found. And with that, that concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. I appreciate that. Commissioners, any questions for staff at this point? Seeing none.
I have questions. Yes, thank you. With regards to, I saw the comment on page 12 of the staff report, some confusion as to whether or not there's going to be 5 or 7 EV stations.
Let me take a quick look.
And
well, I don't. 86 5 spaces allocated specifically for use by.
As opposed to 5, the applicant indicated that 7 spaces were to be reserved for EV station use as opposed to 5. This discrepancy needs clarification. Has that been clarified?
No, it has not. It has not been clarified.
Okay. The second thing, I see that there is a playground area, and Commissioner Dorner's not here, so I'm raising it. With regards to the play area, is it envisioned to have play areas that would accommodate children with disabilities?
That would be an operational question for the school district. I wasn't given any real detail associated with the proposed playground operations.
Okay, I'll wait until the applicant. Thank you. Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. No further questions for the staff at this point.
Just a quick question.
Yes. Yes.
Under recommendations, it referenced 30 bicycle sites planned. How do we come up with a particular number of sites for bicycles? Is there any particular rationale for the number of sites planned?
I would defer to our transportation planning staff if someone is on board who might be able to answer that.
Do we have Ms. Hancock or Mr. Tenenbaum?
Okay, we'll get to it later then. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Maybe Mr. Ray, you can, there, I see Ms. Hancock. Ms. Hancock, we can't hear you. No luck.
Yeah, I don't know if that number was just something proposed by the applicant or if it was based on specific recommendation of staff, but we can definitely find an answer for that.
Yeah, I just wondered whether it could, why not 15 or 50? I was curious to how that number came about.
Okay.
I see Ms. Hancock put on headphones. Maybe we can hear her now. Ms. Hancock, you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
yes.
Perfect.
Oh, good afternoon, Chair Shapiro and all assembled. The number for the bike racks that were mentioned is based on the number of students that are envisioned at a school. With the larger amount of students that are proposed, especially those walkers, we want to make sure that there are bike facilities available for those that want to bike.
Okay. Thank you.
But now Ms. Bailey has me going, why 30? Why? I mean, what's the formula that drives that?
So 30 is based on, remember we typically have inverted U style racks. So that means a 60 rack. Is able to facilitate 60 children who ride the bike. So who will ride their bikes to school, and that's based on the disbursement around the facility. So it won't be 30 all clustered together, but they will be dispersed around between the playground, between the access points to get into the school. So it just provides a variety of different locations around the facility.
Okay.
And just like how does other sort of micro mobility factor in these days? Like for elementary school, do we expect scooters or e-bikes or et cetera, and how is that managed?
We have not been using micromobility, especially with elementary school students, just in terms of we just have not been doing that. So that is absolutely a point that we can take into consideration and coordinate with DPW&T staff, who does a lot of work with the micromobility around the county. Yeah, I think for high schools or larger. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm.
I just think it's for when you get to 5th and 6th graders, like it or not, they're using scooters.
Correct. So a lot of time, we can go into a deep dive of that, and I'll leave it right there. But we'll definitely consider that as we move forward.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions for staff? If not, we'll turn to the applicant. Mr. Parker, I'll turn to you. You can manage the process as you see fit.
Thank you, Mr. For the record, Majette Parker, Law Office of Majette S. Parker, PA, in Camp Spring, Maryland. Pleasure to be here in front of the planning board once again. This is the third time, and we've got 5 more to go after this. We have a great team lined up to speak and address the questions that were raised today, and others too. But we have from the applicant itself, from Prince George's County Public School Systems, Sean Matlock, also Kathy Dixon, who's a design architect with the public school system, winning Perkins Eastman, Mr. Jack Chen, and Sean O'Donnell. Bradley Site Design is a civil engineer for this school, and with us from Bradley Site Design is Ivan Zapata. I think Matthew Cartledge may be here. For traffic issues, we have the traffic group, again, Carl Wilson, and I think he's got Mickey Cornelius with him as well. And of course, myself doing zoning and land use. We appreciate the effort staff has put into this. Again, great staff report. A lot of meetings have gone on in the past couple of months. As we get to this point right here, we agree with the staff recommendations. These are recommendations to be transmitted to the applicant. I will say, and Mr. Ray already addressed that we have been meeting regularly with the Department of Permits, Inspection, and Enforcement regarding the traffic issues, traffic concerns, meeting with Department of Public Works and Transportation, the library system, as well as the fire marshal too, regarding the comments regarding emergency vehicles. But you did raise some good questions, which my team is prepared to address, and that's the EV, clarifying the EV, the playground component, as well as bicycle racks. So I'm going to turn it over to Jack Chin of the Perkins Eastman to talk about those topics. And if you have any other questions, again, traffic, we've got Carl Wilson. But I think we're basically in agreement with these recommendations, transmit them to us, and we're continuing, and we will continue to meet with the various government agencies to get this school delivered on time. It's a 1962 school we're replacing. Get it delivered on time for the good of the students and families in Prince George's County. So at this point, Mr. Chen.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Good to see everybody again. It feels like last Thursday. I can address a couple of questions that members of the board brought up just a few minutes ago. And like always, feel free, my team, please chime in and add on. So the EV chargers, the current number that we have is actually 6, so it's not 5 or 7. And it's actually a number based on lead. So for both the EV chargers and the bicycle, our number of bicycles being accommodated on a site is not random, and it's a very good question. Why can it be 20? Why can it fit? But it's based on the lead criteria. So we weren't comfortable, obviously, with coming up with some random numbers. So between the client, PTCPS, and the design team, we agreed to use lead as a basis to the number. And one other clarification about the bike rack. So our team, and of course we're ready to work with staff, are using the number 30 total bikes, which is actually 15 inverted U's. So each U is 2. That's 15 U's. Of course, we're open to commenting about that, and we're happy to listen in. And unless the rest of the team has comments on that, I think I'll pass it on to Sharon to talk about the playgrounds.
Good afternoon, everybody. I am Sharon Bradley with Bradley Site Design, landscape architect on the project. And I will say that our playgrounds on all of the projects are being designed to include elements for universal access for the equipment itself. The play surface is ADA compliant, and the access to the play elements, to the playground itself, is ADA compliant.
Right. Mr. Parker, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So with that, we're prepared to answer any additional questions, but we're agreeing with staff's recommendations. We are having discussions regarding some of the recommendations coming from DPI, DPWT, but those conversations are ongoing and will continue to ongoing till we get to permits, and then we're moving forward with construction.
Commissioners, questions for the applicant?
I was wondering, Mr. Chair, whether or not the signage that they use will also be ADA compliant, such as are there going to be braille signs? Is there going to be an electronic sign that someone could access?
Ms. Bradley, is that in your?
I can answer that. So the exterior sign will be the typical signage that Prince George's County Public Schools is currently using, and for all the interior signs, so for example, signage for the rooms, etc., will have Braille on it. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So the bicycle, so then it's actually not with a 60 capacity, it's with a 30 capacity?
That is correct. That's the current assumption, yes.
Okay. And tell me again, you're talking about it's a lead standard. What is this that determines that number?
That's correct. So there are many different numbers that we can throw out there. So collectively between Prince George's County Public Schools and the development team, we agreed to use the lead standard as the basis to the program.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions for the applicant? Mr. Matlock, anything that you want to bring to us on this? Good to see you as always.
I don't have a whole lot to add, except that we have done quite a bit of, we did community outreach. We've been meeting with the city of New Carrollton. We've had a town hall, and we've assembled a planning committee for this school, and we're very excited about the project. And just to be clear, our schools now, elementary schools, because of our blueprint program, we no longer have sixth graders in our elementary schools, so it's 1 to 5s. I mean K to 5, so you don't have to worry about sixth graders. Yep.
So you'll have less shared mobility issues.
Yes, exactly. Less shared mobility issues. But I want to thank you. I want to thank staff and everybody who've been working with us. They've been very, very helpful, very open, and I think they've worked very well with our team. I can't say enough about how well the staff has worked with us, and we really appreciate the time here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the kind words. Very much appreciated. We also have, I believe we have representatives from DPI and DPWT, Mr. Lord Adabor, Mr. Russell from DPWT. If you're still on the line, I just want to acknowledge you and see if there's anything else that you have to bring to us.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair.
Not anymore, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's a good afternoon, I have to tell you.
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Planning Board. DPI has no further comments. We will continue to work with the applicant and DPWT to develop and recommend some items that could be included in the TNP.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. And do we have Mr. Russell from DPWT? I'm not sure we do. We're not. Just want to acknowledge him if he's here.
Chair Shapiro, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Evan Tenenbaum with the Transportation Planning Section. We got information that Jahid was not going to be able to make it today. He passed along the message. He does not have any further comments other than what we discussed with the applicant earlier this week. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. I just want to say for both DPI and DPW2, really appreciate you all being engaged in our process. I know it takes time and effort, but it's just helpful in case there are issues. And we know that you're quite involved every step of the way. But for the public as well, I think it sends the right message that we are being very collaborative across all these agencies. So thank you for all that work. Much appreciated. So with that, I don't think we have anything else before us on this issues. Commissioners, what is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the staff recommendation in the staff report and approve the recommendations and transmit them to the applicant.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Parker, did we or Mr. Ray, anything that we're missing here? We're all okay?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. No further discussion on the motion. I will call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thanks, everybody. Much appreciated. All right, Commissioners, let's go back to item 10 on our agenda. This is the second of our legislative drafting requests, LDR 83-2024. Mr. Hall.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Great. It's amazing what a reboot can do to us humans as well as computers. So thank you. I really apologize for whatever mishap before. Not had that problem before, but for the record, my name is Richard Hall from the Planning Director's Office. And good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board. I'm here to summarize the staff report from LDR 83 on convenience stores. Next slide, please. This is a simple graphic outlining the legislative process. Obviously, we're all the way on the left there on the first public hearing. From here, the bill will go to council. Next slide, please. The purpose of LDR 83 is to restrict the location of convenience stores no closer than 3 miles of existing convenience stores and to limit the store operating hours. Next slide, please. What I want to say from this slide essentially are that the process as described before with LDR 82 you talked about before, we were not consulted as this bill was being put together, and there's some formatting issues as well. I'll also say that we did happen to meet with some council staff last week and are communicating and are happy to help. Next slide, please. The policy analysis, as I mentioned before in the purpose slide, one of the main parts of this bill will be to limit new convenience stores within 3 miles of existing stores. I have a map that makes this point very well. In just a minute, I will show you. But as you all probably know, knowing the county quite well, if you can imagine drawing a 3-mile radius around each of the existing convenience stores, the map will probably show what you will probably guess, which is there's very little of the county left to locate any new convenience stores, and the areas that are left are quite rural and have a lot of parks and such there. So the point is that I'm not saying this is a moratorium, but it would have almost the effect of being a moratorium on new convenience stores. The other item I would mention, we don't know the intentions of the sponsor, but this bill does not affect stores associated with gas stations because they are referenced in the code differently. So that's the point we would mention is again, those stores that most people probably call convenience stores that are associated with a gas station, that's inherent with the gas station use. So this bill, as written, would not affect stores that are linked to part of a gas station project. The hours piece I want to mention briefly. This bill would limit hours of convenience stores from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. that might be pretty limiting for those that want convenience stores, want to use them, want to own them, run them. The other piece I want to point out from this is, as drafted, that hours provision would only apply to new convenience stores and not to existing ones, therefore creating a difference within the use across the zone. So that's problematic. We did talk to staff about if they're interested in addressing the hours issue, it might be better for Title V, a different part of the county code, businesses and licensing. That might be a better location to address the hours issue. The last key point I want to mention from the bill is how it eliminates non-conforming uses. Again, as you all know, zoning has changed. There are existing uses. There's a very general zoning planning principle, but non-conforming uses remain. And this bill as written would eliminate non-conforming uses of convenience stores, which is not the intention probably of past zoning changes, because the intention is if you're going to rezone it with a convenience store there and don't want that use to continue beyond its non-conforming period, this bill would undo that. So that's an issue that we want to highlight as well. Next slide, please. Have the maps coming up. Thank you. There's two maps here. The one on the left is showing the convenience stores with the dots on the map, and then you see a 3-mile radius around each of the existing convenience stores. As you can imagine, there's a lot of overlap of these stores with each other, and what you see is very limited amount of land that's not within that green crosshatch pattern, because again, the 3-mile radius, they overlap with each other, so it's almost solidly colored in for almost all of the middle and upper part of the county. And then you see a little bit in the southeastern part of the county, and a little bit to the southwestern part of the county that aren't covered. But again, those areas are mostly quite rural, and there wouldn't be many convenience stores allowed there anyway. Just for reference, we did the same type of map. Excuse me. However, we added gas stations in case that is something that gets added in, and there's just even somewhat more coverage of the county and where these type of stores cannot be built. It's the same map essentially, just the one on the right is adding in the gas stations. So next slide, please. Our recommendation to the planning board is about the findings of this report and to oppose LDR 83. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Hall on this item? Seems pretty straightforward to me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, as with before, the motion would be to prepare a letter for the chair's signature opposing the LDR 83 with associated comments in the technical staff report.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we adopt the findings of the recommendations of the staff and the technical staff report, and prepare a letter for your signature to the council voicing our opposition to it, along with any comments.
Excellent.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Hall, thank you.
Thank you
for all your work on this. If there's no further discussion, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thank you. We'll move on to our final item on the agenda. This is item 12, Countywide Planning Division. This is a renewal of 4 reservations that will expire on June 30th, 2022. These are at various locations. Mr. Patrick is giving the staff presentation on this. Take it away.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Just want to make sure my audio is working.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. For the record, my name is Ben Patrick with the Transportation Planning Section. We came before the Planning Board in April seeking consent to renew the reservations on 4 separate properties, all expiring on June 30th of this year. During this time, we have sought consent from the landowners and comments from the county executive and the county council. At this point, we have received signed affidavits from all property owners consenting to the renewal. Additionally, staff has received signed letters from the director of DPW&T and DPI indicating their support of the renewals. The June 13th meeting with the Transportation, Infrastructure, Energy, and Environment Committee, staff sought the committee's recommendation to extend the reservation period for an additional year. The committee voted favorably, and the chair's letter was referred to the county council for approval. At the council's June 18th meeting, the council recommended transmittal of a letter to the planning board in support of the renewals. Finally, staff supports the continuation of the reservations. Before you today, seeking your approval of the draft resolutions to renew 4 land reservations as outlined in the staff memorandum. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick. Commissioners, any questions for staff on this item? If not, I would look for a motion to approve the 4 land reservations, the renewal of the 4 land reservations.
Mr. Chair, I move that we continue the reservation of rights, which were due to expire on June 30th, 2024.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Giraldo, a second by Vice Chair Bailey, and just to be clear, this is for all 4 land reservations.
All
correct?
4, and for the resolution to be signed.
Okay,
as well.
thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Vice Chair Bailey.
Vote aye.
I vote aye as well. The ayes have it 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Benjamin. I'm sorry, Mr. Patrick. I apologize. And dare I say, I believe that concludes all the items before us. Ms. Connor, any further business to come before the planning board today?
No, there's nothing further for the board today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So, folks, thanks for all the good work today. And without objection, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.